Right now, a lot of the conversation around Bloomreaper is still about specific guns. You see takes like if you don't have X or Y gun, then the fight just doesn't work. And that couldn't be further from the truth. What's good everyone, it's Word here, and look, Bloomreaper isn't a have you got a Ceramic Bod yet checkpoint. It's a phase-based fight and most people are struggling not because of what they own, but because of when they are using it. Builds are half the picture, and we got that covered on this channel. The other half of that coin is weapons, and that's what we're focusing on today. So in this video, I want to walk through how I think about the weapon choices for phase 1 and phase 2 and 3 of the entire fight. These are some of my favorite options, but this is not an exhaustive list. The goal here is simple. By the end of this, you should feel a lot more confident opening your bank and realizing you already have multiple ways to make this work. This is not about chasing one perfect roll or one meta gun. It's about understanding what each phase of the fight actually needs from your weapon. And just to set expectations, for melee, it's Mantra and Slippy. And for Ordnance builds, it is basically whatever explodes hard enough to give you a real-life flashbang. So today we're talking guns and only guns. And if this is the kind of breakdown that helps you out and you want more build and systems focused Borderlands for content, consider subscribing. That way you don't miss out on the next one. And we're gonna kick this off with who would have thought? Phase 1. And look, we already know what the objective here is. You wanna kill the crystals and the little floating shards as fast as possible. So you already know what I'm about to say. Jacobs. Yeah, that's right. Look, before I list out a few of my favorites, let me explain the rationale behind it, because there are a couple of important things that is happening here. First, the crystals themselves have a lot of health, easily over 1 million. What that means is that you need both high card damage and the respectable fire rate. Just having a slow shooting gun doing say 9k damage does not automatically make your life easy. And on the other side of that, having an insane fire rate but tickling the crystals for 300 damage per bullet is gonna be just as ineffective. So when you're shopping for weapons in phase 1, you're actually looking for a very specific category that sits right in the middle of those two extremes. But now, my first pick is arguably the GOAT of phase 1 right now. It is the Dark Beast. Ever since it's been buffed, with every single shot having a 20% chance to deal 5 times its card damage, this thing has absolutely leapfrogged into top tier territory in everyone's tier list. Now the problem is it's always DD by default, so you do need to format the Jacobs version specifically, but it is absolutely worth the effort. If any gun is worth farming out a good version of it, it's Dark Beast. This one deserves to be mentioned. Next up though, I got a much easier gun for you to obtain that honestly kind of goes crazy full netty, and that's Bonnie and Clyde. And this thing shreds. It's always Jacobs, always a solid card damage, and it does exactly what you want here. The one thing that I would keep in mind is the reload speed. It is long, so ideally you want to pair this with a build that can cheat ammo back into the magazine or at least increase the reload speed. You also don't really want to overthink the legendary effect and keep swapping firing modes. That just makes your life miserable in this fight. But let me give you guys a quick side note. For consistency's sake, I'm using my favorite hollow build in all of this footage so that everything starts on equal footing. I'll link it up on the tippy top so that if you want, you can check it out after the video. The third recommendation is an easy one. I got the Rainbow Vomit. Now, I have never met anyone that doesn't like the Rainbow Vomit. It looks cool and it's cool to use. And if you're playing a build that cranks up the gun damage in a small and closed arena like this one, the Rainbow Vomit actually overcomes its biggest weakness for me, which is that, let's be honest, it has a pretty flaccid trajectory. It just goes like that. And look, this one is going to be Jacobs right out the gate, so you don't need to worry about farming specific manufacturers. You just got to look for good damage rolls and you're set. But there is one key tip here, and that's positioning. Once you pop a crystal, you gotta make sure that you immediately deal with the floating shards and move closer to them so that they don't start drifting out of your effective range, because then you're gonna have a harder time to catch them. But next up is a combo pick. King's Gambit with AC May. This is an absolute giga shredder with one very important caveat. Now I've already done an entire video on how strong King's Gambit and AC May is, and all of that still applies here. You can delete the crystals incredibly easy with just the orb. However, for whatever reason, The ricochet from the orb, they do not target the floating shards. At all. I don't know why. Honestly, it feels a bit like a bug. So what you gotta do is, once you pop all the crystals, you need to make sure that you do a quick victory lap with ACMA to gotta clean it up manually. It's just gotta be done, otherwise they're gonna land again and then you're gonna have hell of a time. And before we get on to phase 2, there is one last weapon that I wanna call out for phase 1, and that's the Hellwalker. And we're also gonna use this as a natural segue into phase 2 because this gun is easily one of my all-time favorite Bloomreaper killing weapons for the full fight. It's super easy to farm, it is always Jacobs, always incendiary, and if you pair it together with someone like Harlow, it is a match made in heaven. Well, not for Bloomreaper, hey, but let's talk about phase 2. And this bad boy has a fuck ton of health. I mean, no really, a lot of health. The entire phase is basically a DPS check towards the Platinum timer. The good thing here is that there are a lot of different guns that do an incredible job at melting Bloomreaper's headboard very quickly. In most cases, your best bets are going to be weapons that can stack incendiary damage extremely fast, with a few exceptions that we'll get to. And snipers are going to shine here really well because the way that they are made currently in the game is that they have some insane ability to ramp up status effect damage. Well, some of them. And on the other hand, we have shotguns. And they're going to edge out almost everything else simply because the Bloomreaper has a massive size. You're basically always hitting every single pellet, which gives you some absolutely wild scaling. That said, it is not just about raw damage that matters here. Positioning is a huge part of phase 2. Depending on your build, whether you have an easy access to overshield, whether you're relying on Jacob's gun to deal with the ads, that's all going to dictate where you can stand safely. Think about it like this. You want to move as little as possible so you can maintain maximum DPS uptime. And look, you guys know me, I'm addicted to my overshields. My personal secret sauce is that I'm just gonna levitate in the beam for as long as I can, the ads can't reach me while I'm up there, and I just keep on loading into the eyeballs. 200 IQ. Bam. Alright, but now that we covered Hellwalker, let's look at some other strong options that you can swap to once you enter phase 2 and 3. And first up is the Katagawa's Revenge. This sniper is absolutely nasty with the amount of elemental damage that it does. Especially once Bloomreaper settles and starts doing the I-beam, if you start unloading, there's gonna be so many little red blood cells popping around and just doing damage, it is crazy. One of the biggest upside here is that it is always incendiary, so you never have to keep grinding for the right element. All you're looking for again is a high damage roll and maybe Jacobs. And next up is Asher's Rise. This follows a similar idea to Katagawa's Revenge, but with one important difference. Your crits here don't do a traditional crit damage, they instead apply the status effect with that amount of damage that you have on the card. It's a very strong sniper, it has a high card damage, it has a fairly fast fire rate, and it has a surprisingly quick reload. Both this and the Katagawa's Revenge are melee Vanessa base, so you do need to make sure that you farm a fire version, or at least something of the Asher that doesn't get penalized against flash health bars. And third up is one of the strongest shotguns in the entire game, the Sweet Embrace. If you don't have a weapon to kill Bloomreaper with, honestly, you really can't complain anymore. Just go to Mox's tip jar, keep shilling out until you get one that's fire, Jacobs, and has good card damage. It might not be the flashiest way to farm a weapon, but it will absolutely guarantee your platinum timer. And I'm pretty sure you won't be complaining then. Next, and I know that if I don't mention this, people will hunt me down in the comments, so let's get it out of the way. Complex Root. This thing is certifiably insane. It's another melee sniper, so yes, you do want to farm Jacob's variant here. And this time, it is really worth it. The secret sauce is in the legendary effect. Legendary effect. Why can't I say that word? The secret sauce is in the legendary effect. The secret sauce is in the legendary effect. That's it. Jesus Christ. Okay, so basically, Sierpinski. It's gonna split your initial projectile into dozens of smaller ones, and each of those tiny ones has its own chance to ricochet. And yes, they can all ricochet back into the same target. that kind of new potential, you will crack Bloomreaper's skull in a minute. And lastly, I got a bit of an odd one for you, but it's one that I personally really enjoy, and it's a very easy one to farm, the Borstel Ballista. I like to throw a few options that won't completely break your mental trying to get them. This is, again, an always Jacob sniper rifle, and its real strength it's in firing pattern. It does the little spirally whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And this one does sit a little bit on the riskier side. You want a build that can amplify its damage because the fire rate isn't exactly Sonic the Hedgehog, but because of its formation and how many small pseudo pellets you're dumping into the target, it hits way harder than it has any right to. So that's how I think about weapons for Bloomreaper phase by phase. The key takeaway here is this: you don't need one magic gun, you need the right type of weapon for the right type of moment. Once that clicks, your bank suddenly looks a lot better than you thought it did. If this helped you make more sense of your loadouts, drop a like, and if you want more build and system focused Borderlands 4 content, make sure you subscribe. We've got plenty more coming, but as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.